So, gentlemen, I'm excited again to just share with you more in the series of going deeper with God and going deeper in integrity and purity. And today's a very interesting discussion. Um, in my own devotional life, I'm studying currently. I just finished Isaiah, and I'm going to the book of James. And James has a lot to say about lying. And what I have noticed is that men who struggle with addiction to porn or sexual addiction or uh, this whole journey of sexual purity, but men who struggle with that, almost without exception, are addicted to lying as well. Uh, Matter of fact, I can't think of a man who's battled with this private struggle with porn addiction who hasn't also been pretty proficient at lying. And so the journey is as much about coming clean with my lips and speaking truth as it is stopping the addiction. And so, so I just, as I've been thinking about this for some time, then as I'm reading in James and I see such a powerful passage about the importance of our lips and speaking the truth versus lying, that I just really felt that it's a topic that we need to consider. And so the question I want you to be asking yourself as we delve into this for a minute is, how much do I lie? When do I lie? Which different ways do I distort the truth? And then just do a self-examination through this this journey, and we'll have a discussion about it later. So if you've grabbed the handout that was sent, I'm going to be reading from James chapter 3 and just making a little commentary of it as we move through it. James chapter 3. First of all, it seriously warns me and any of you who might lead a Bible study, speak in a place, but not many of you should become teachers or presume to be teachers. In one case, it says, because you know that we who teach are judged more strictly. You see, because all the things that I say on behalf of the Lord to try to guide you, if I'm leading you astray, there's going to be the back of the hand for you led these people astray, you dog breath. I mean, I trusted you to help these men and you led them astray, because you're going to be judged more strictly, it says. And notice that it sets up now this whole thing about the tongue. We all stumble in many ways. That means everybody struggles with different things. Okay, so we struggle in many ways. But who is never at fault in what they say is perfect, able to keep their whole body in check. So if you don't struggle in what you say, but actually speak truth, teach truth, honor people about how your lips are speaking, there's that perfect man syndrome where you can keep your whole body in check. Now, it's interesting. I love the part where it says keep your whole body in check, because somehow if I control my lips, if I speak the truth and don't lie, the other things in my life, it says, are going to fall into place. My whole body will be held in check. And so I found that really, really helpful, that the lying part of my life actually opens the door for all kinds of gong shows that need to be addressed. And so now it goes into talking specifically about the tongue in verse 3. Follow with me. We put bits in the mouths of horses, make them obey us, and we can turn the whole animal. Silly part of my past, but I was a riding instructor at camp 4 summers, and I've been on trail rides, instructed a lot of people how to ride horse long ago. I mean, I'm sure I'd fall off one now, but I've been in about 8 rodeos, amateur, when I was much younger. But I tell you that because I know a lot about bits and bridles and reins, and the difference between neck reining, where you just touch the side of the horse's neck and it moves the other direction, versus plow reining, where you pull the horse, versus if you've really ridden a really good horse, you don't even have to use the reins. You can let them go and use the inside of your thighs, and you just touch with some pressure on the right shoulder of the horse, and the horse will turn that way. The harder you put pressure on that side, that horse will keep turning. And if you push with the left leg against the, because then your hands are free, like if you're roping or whatever. It's all done with the knees. So you see, this huge animal is controlled by, the illustration here is this bit and bridle, but this small bit controls this whole body. That's the illustration. It goes on to say, or take ships, for example. Although they're large, think a cruise ship, and they're driven by strong winds up on the seas, they're still steered by this unbelievably small rudder wherever the pilot wants it to go. I mean, if you ever seen a cruise ship that's having some work done on it and it's up on dock, like the crazy rudder at the back of this massive ship, often there's 2 or 3 sometimes, but they're relatively small, like they're a very small percent of the size of the ship. Yeah, but see, likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, because it is small relatively, but it makes great boasts. There's an interesting little signal here. Sometimes the lying is actually exaggerating the truth, because it makes great boasts. We'll come back to that. And consider what a great force is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue is also like a fire, a world of evil among many parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body and sets the whole course of a man's life on fire, and itself is set on fire by hell. But the idea again that the tongue corrupts the whole body, because as often we start misleading and it leads to other actions and we're denying things, and the tongue kind of parts the waters to go in a dark direction. And so the thing we've got to keep in mind over and over again is that the tongue, though it's small, has a big impact on how my life goes. The writer of James here, brother of Jesus, he says this: all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, sea creatures have been tamed. You've been to circuses and, you know, all the animals in the zoo, etc. They've been tamed by mankind, but no human being can tame the tongue. It's a restless evil full of deadly evil. Well, if that's true, then what hope do we have? Well, thank God Jesus in our life. But it goes on to give another example of how the tongue is off track. Because it says, with the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and with it we curse human beings who are made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth comes praise and cursing. My brothers and sisters, this should not be. Can fresh water and salt water flow to the same spring? That's a rhetorical question. The answer is no. My brothers, can a fig tree bear olives? Can a grapevine bear figs? Answer is no. Neither can salt spring produce fresh water. And so you get the idea how big a deal the tongue is and how much it controls how you operate and what you do. And it really, though it's a small thing, creates a big influence in your life. Again, because I'm studying James right now, in James chapter 1, you'll see it there. It says this: if you brothers in regroup claim to be religious, did I say that clear enough? If you claim to be religious but don't control your tongue, you're fooling yourself and your religion is worthless. So the connection is really clear that if I'm surrendered to God, my lips, my tongue is surrendered to God, that he's got control of all of me, and that I seriously am allowing him to shape what I say, to shape the ideas I convey, to control what comes out of my mouth. If I claim to be religious and don't control my tongue, my faith is worthless. So we got to look at this. In my study this morning, prior to the meeting, I've talked to men about, listen, the problem is you're lying to yourself, you're fooling yourself. And I have to tell you, until this morning, I did not know this verse existed. And I'm really thankful. I mean, I've been studying my Bible my whole life, and you don't sometimes notice things till you really need those things. But then this morning, as I found this, Jesus, keep me from lying to myself. Give me the privilege of knowing your instructions. So God needs to instruct me, but I lie to myself. I fool myself, and it's not that big a deal, and I'm a good man, and yet then the attacks come from the enemy that you're a piece of garbage, but many times guys are lying to themselves and seeing it, well, it's not that bad, or I'm not that bad, or, my struggle is not that bad. I know other guys, or this isn't that big deal. And you see, they're lying to themselves to justify behavior. And so maybe you're lying to yourself. Yeah, there's lots of different passages. I just grabbed the one. The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in those who tell the truth. Um, there's passages say there's six things, no, five things that the Lord hates, six that he really is offended by. And then the list is the man who lies, the lying tongue is in that list. So the Lord really is dishonored by my lips when I'm lying. Um, and the Acts 5 passage, you're likely all familiar with it, but it's the story of Ananias and Sapphira. And back in the days, the church was growing. A lot of people were selling, they had means and they sold property and they gave the money to the apostles to distribute to widows and people in need because there was no social welfare system. And this story about Ananias and Sapphira is that they sold the property to give money to the church, as it were, to help those in need. But when you do that, you don't have to give it all. You could say, okay, I'm giving half of it to this cause or 3/4 or whatever. But the problem is they gave it to the apostles saying, we sold this and we gave it all. Well, they didn't give it all. They withheld some. Now, it was their right to withhold some. So the problem wasn't that they didn't give it all. The problem was they pretended to give it all. That they implied that they gave it all in front of the church. We sold this and we gave it all to the Lord. Here it is. And they came in separately. The guy had come in first with the kind of, here's the goods, here's our gift. This is, we sold this property and here's all the money. And right there, the guy died. And his wife came in later and said, I can't see my husband here, but yeah, we've got this money here. We've given it all to the Lord. And the apostle says, the man who carried your husband out will soon carry you out, because they make this statement, and this is the key verse. The property was yours to sell or not sell as you wished. And after selling it, the money was yours to give away. So you could have given whatever amount you wanted. But how could you do a thing like this? You weren't lying to us, but to God. See, when I lie to my wife, when I lie to my friends, when I lie to the general world about who I really am, it's an affront to God. I'm actually lying to God, because God looks at me and he sees it all and he goes, what are you saying that? That's not true. And see, God is grieved by my lying. He's grieved by my withholding. He's grieved by all my distortions. And so that story is a pretty strong reminder as they go to set up the church. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25 says it pretty clear. So stop telling lies, guys. Stop telling lies. Let us tell our spouses the truth. Let's tell our friends, regroup the truth. One of the craziest things would be that you would become part of this group and then lie about how you're doing. It's not uncommon for, a couple times a year for a man to not come clean the fact that he's, relapsed, and he pretends that, I'm 104 days, 105 days. Meantime, 2-3 weeks ago, he relapsed and he doesn't want to, he's too proud, whatever. He doesn't want to, let the group down. You just don't want, his wife's starting to respect him now. And so he lies. And this regroup is all about being authentic. It's all about being truthful. And here's a place where you come clean. We don't spend any time about shame, blame, or judgment. Now we're going to be filled with both grit and grace. Grit, like sandpaper, we're going to rub off some of those hard edges that you need help with. But we're also going to walk with grace. But we're not soft on screwing up, but we will be in your corner. And so yeah. And the other thing I just want to throw on the table here, I decided to pull out, this is out of the 10 Commandments. And in Exodus chapter 20, verse 16, you'll notice this is the 9th commandment. You must not testify falsely against your neighbor. And it's actually either lying or denying the truth so that someone else gets in trouble. So to testify falsely, in the realm of their version of court would really be a problem. So that's the implication of of lying is just one of the 10 commandments. Don't lie, especially don't lie to put other people in jeopardy. Now, there's kind of the spiritual backdrop for it. But I want to go on to just understanding of how this really rolls out in our lives. First of all, let's be clear. A lie is any distortion of the truth, any way, any how, any amount. A distortion of the truth. And you know you're in trouble when you're keeping secrets, when you're hiding your activities. If you're keeping things from your spouse, if you're doing things in private, so no. If you're locking down your devices, or you always have it with you and you never put it out in public, if you hide your passwords or change your passwords, if you're hiding your tracks and spending cash instead of any kind of receipts so that you could be traced, your whereabouts, any kind of hiding, any kind of keeping secrets, any kind of withholding in your activities, or where were you after work and you tell the 2 places you were but you didn't tell the third, right? Or what were you doing last night? Oh, I was just doing some work late. And you did work late, but you're not telling the whole story. You also spent 45 minutes looking at porn and masturbating. Okay, sometimes he's walked in and maybe caught you in that. But the point is, you're in trouble when you start keeping secrets, you start being private, you're locking devices, changing passwords, those kind of things. That is behavior that is setting you up to protect yourself from the truth coming out. But then specifically, you'll notice the 10, and as we talk, there was the one earlier where part of lying is where you're boasting, where you're exaggerating. But I've been really talking about more the other side. So what happens is there's different ways that people find themselves lying. And this is where you got to start asking yourself, what's my style? What's my flavor of lying? Do you minimize? I was just talking with a gentleman in Ontario yesterday, helping he and his wife through his addiction and the great impact of 30 years of his marriage and his acting out. But he did the usual thing where it's progressive disclosure. He would tell her, well, yeah, I've had a little problem with this over the years. Yeah, I want to admit that to you. So he minimizes what he's done, and he tells this part of the story. And then as she's getting close to asking her a question, well, then he tells this part of the story, and it's a little bigger circle. But honey, really, that's everything. But the progressive disclosure goes until he's told this, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until she finally knows the whole story. And the progressive disclosure, where we minimize our misbehavior or minimize the amount of distraction this has been to our life, that is one form of distortion of the truth. Downplay. This is where we say, well, look, I admit that once last week there was an incident that I was involved a little bit, but I've really got a handle on this. How many times guys with addiction have said to their spouse, I got a handle on this? Like, it's just crazy. But they downplay the effect it has on them. They downplay the amount that they're involved in it. And they actually speak the truth about, I was involved for, honestly, honey, I'll be straight. I was involved with you for 10 minutes on Tuesday night. And so she thinks he's telling that because he's telling the whole story. He's not saying that there was an hour on Thursday and an hour on Sunday, and last week it was 4 times. So it sounds like he's coming clean. He's being honest. So he's downplaying the whole story, and I've got this. Because many women get really, really choked by the fact that they asked their husband when they were getting married, hey, have you struggled with porn? Oh yeah, I did, but I've got, it's behind me now. And they go, okay, because they don't understand sexual addiction. They don't understand the grasp that porn gets into a man's life. And so the man downplays it and, lives in some version of denial. Thirdly is withholding. You give a little bit of the truth, making it appear like it's all the truth. So, hey, where were you after work? Okay, listen, I went for a coffee with Bill after work. You can call Bill. We were over at Starbucks on 14th or whatever. And she could call Bill, and Bill would say, yeah, we went for coffee there. Now, it doesn't cover the whole 2 hours he was away, but it gives the impression that he's being honest, but he's withholding because he's wondering, I'm just concerned where you were. And so he chooses to withhold by telling part of the story, gives a little bit of the truth, but makes it appear like it's the whole thing. And in some ways, this half-truth is similar, but there's a sense of a boldness and, honey, I'm telling you the truth. I went from coffee with Bill. I picked up milk for you. Traffic was bad, a bit of a stretch. Now traffic was bad for 3 minutes, but trying to give the impression that this story I'm giving you is the whole story, but it's only half the story. They might ask you directly, were you with Sally? Because they're concerned about this secretary or something. And you say, oh, no, I mean, there was a lot of people there. Well, the truth is you are at a restaurant with Sally after work, and a lot of people there are all the people in the restaurant, but you were having private interaction time with this person. And so you've given the impression that, there's a lot of staff there, everybody, and you make it sound like it's all straight up. This is an interesting one. The bold-faced lie, complete denial. There's been many women in my office have sobbed because I suspected something was going on. I looked him in the face and I said, are you this, whatever, looking at porn? Are you satisfying yourself other ways? Are you being with another woman? Are you, whatever? And not only do they look in the face of their wife and say, honey, I would never do that. Trust me, I love you. And they give this passionate speech about their undying love and their faithfulness, and there's nothing going on. And she's sobbing in my office because she says, I don't know how many times I asked him directly, and he lied to my face. How on earth am I ever going to rebuild this marriage? Because he can lie to me, bold face, and it looks like it's all the truth, and I trusted him. Well, that's complicated. This misrepresentation of the truth is close to the half-truth, but what happens is I actually fill the air with lots of truth, but I don't directly answer the question. So she's asking me about something, and I go into, well, I was then, and there's this, and then this, and by the way, this happened, and then this, and this, and this, and so that's really the story. Well, you've avoided the direct question. You've given her the impression that everything's okay. And this shading the truth. I spent a lot of time this week working on my recovery. No, twice you read for about 5 minutes. And so you're exaggerating, you're shading, you're creating a different inflection of the real story. Number 8 is another way of avoiding talking about the truth, where you deflect. You start talking about other things, not other this. You all of a sudden, you want to ask me direct questions like that. Well, I got questions I can ask you. Right? Or this is not getting us anywhere. Why you just ask me these things like this? I mean, you know who I am. We've been married 20 years. Besides, and then there's a calling to account. I mean, look at the things I'm doing. I'm teaching Sunday school and this. Do you think a guy who's teaching Sunday school and you see me in the Word, do you think that guy's going to be so do you see how it deflects? Sometimes it's just straight defensiveness. We avoid answering the question and we just get defensive. We start blaming our spouse. You have no right to ask me these questions. The way you talk to our children, and it's just, you better look in the mirror, girl. You better face your own anger, girl. And so there's a sense to which in our bravado and defensiveness and blaming them, they back off from answering the question because they know he's going to lose it if I ask him that. And sometimes we avoid conversations or avoid opportunities where there may be questions asked. So we don't get into meaningful conversations and, honey, I need to talk to you about some things. Oh, yeah. Listen, I'm really busy tonight. I'm going to stay late at work here, and finally she'll wake you up in the night and say, look, we need to talk. And it's, 1:30 in the morning. But that's where we're not being available to have conversations for fear that we will be asked something. So I've tried to give you a flavor of some of the different ways that men lie, but they don't call it lying. I'm just not telling the whole story here. Well, she didn't ask directly. But remember, any distortion of the truth from any means, any amount, is lying. You'll see the word epicac down there. And I want to close with this illustration. Some of you who might be in the medical field, especially in the emergency, will know the word epicac. Some of you who've raised children and might have had this around just for this occasion. But epicac is a syrup. It's something that you ingest when you've accidentally taken in poison. Like, for instance, if you're at home and a child takes a glass of turpentine thinking it's water and starts to drink and has ingested a half a glass of water before they realize this is bad. And so we know we have turpentine, which is really poisonous, in the system. A parent might have Epicac there and give a kid a tablespoon or a teaspoon of that. And what Epicac does is, within about less than a minute, I'm going to guess 30 seconds, there is an unbelievable, uncontrollable, violent retching of the gut. There was an unloading. There was a huge, you cannot stop it, vomiting going to take place with Epicac. I've been in the hospital with young people that are suicidal, and I've actually, in some cases, taken them to the hospital after they've overdosed. And in 2 cases, I was in the emergency as the caring person, youth pastor or counselor, when I was younger. And they actually give a tray. I remember this very clearly. They give a tray of those little pill cups. There's little shot glasses. They're all filled with water, and the tray is just covered with water. And they give this Epicac, like, here, take this syrup, and then see how many of these you can get down. And so, like shot glasses, they're pounding these little things of water down. Well, the point is, the more water they can get in the system, the more likely they can get the poison out. If it's been within a half hour, especially if it's been less than a half hour, there's a good chance that not all the poison from the overdose has even been absorbed into their stomach lining and thus into the bloodstream. And so what happens is Epicac causes a projectile vomiting. You say, well, why the heck are you talking about Epicac and this syrup that causes involuntary vomiting? Because it is my prayer that you will ask the Holy Spirit to give you an Epicac reaction the next time you lie. That you'll be so, I can't do this. I can't do this. I got to stop lying. I won't lie again. And you have this Jesus, make me a man who speaks the truth. Control my tongue, Jesus, so I can control the rest of my body. I don't want to minimize. I don't want to downplay. I don't want to withhold. I don't want to deny. I don't want to misrepresent. I don't want to shade. I don't want to deflect. I don't want to be defensive. I don't want to avoid conversations. I want to be a man of integrity. I want to be a man of truth. And Jesus, by the power of your Holy Spirit, when I lie, give me that gut-wrenching reaction that says, no, I will not lie. I will not lie. And in the heart of that is one of the greatest growths you will experience as a man, that your word is your word is your word. My father, Ken Currie, has passed away some years ago, and I died at 95, but I looked at my dad as Ken Integrity Currie. To my entire life, I never, ever, ever suspected that my dad was not speaking the truth, that he would never lie. And I just really pray that my kids would look up to me and say, well, that's Dave Integrity Currie. Because integrity means who you are when nobody is watching is the same person as who you are when everybody's watching, that you're still the same person. And the beautiful thing about telling the truth, and this is the beauty of telling the truth, because people who lie have to keep track of, what did I say here? What did I say here? And you end up lying to cover a lie, and then it gets more complicated because what did I say to her? Well, if I say this to them and this to them, then they will both think that. And the whole thing is a scheming. You spend so much time trying to cover your tracks and trying to cover a lie with another lie. And it just gets so complicated. When you speak the truth, I don't have to remember what I say to you. You say, well, Dave, what do you think? Or what did you say? I said, well, I'll tell you what I think, because that's what I would have said then. And because I don't lie, and this is my prayer, and I want to tell the truth all the time, and I'm kind of famous for speaking the truth and not holding back, sometimes too much. But I guess the beauty is I don't have to worry about what I've said before. I just tell you what I think, because I didn't lie then and I won't lie now. So I'm just going to tell you what I think. And yeah, so gentlemen, we have a journey that we're on. We have a journey to get beyond the adolescent mindset that can lie, that can withhold the truth, that can misrepresent. And oh, Jesus, help us be men whose lips speak truth. There's a challenge for the day, man. And yeah,